Stoner. Time is running out even on the decade. The time is ticking on the decade. So I've got your decade-long plan for planned giving. By the end of this decade, over these 10 years, you can be so far along in planned giving, you're not going to believe how much you'll be earning. You'll even be estimating how much you're going to be earning. You can go a long, long way if you get started in 2020. Imagine, you're going to see how far along you could be by 2029, right? So I've got your decade-long plan for planned giving. This year, you know the place to start. You've heard me say it so many times. I'll find a video and I'll put it right around here, I think. On bequests. You got to start with charitable bequests. That's where any planned giving program gets kicked off for lots of reasons that I'll go into in a video, okay? So you start with bequests this year and kick off your recognition society. You got to have a planned giving recognition society so that you can thank your donors and recognize your donors who include you in their wills. That's where you're starting. Just like you recognize people who give at the $500 level or the $1,000 level or the $10,000 level. You have, I told you time is ticking. We got to pause for this, of course. I can't talk over the ticking time bomb. Okay. Yes, you want to say thank you to your planned giving donors, just as you say thank you to all your outright donors at different levels. So that's your first year plan. You start with promoting bequests and you kick off that recognition society. Years 2 through 3, naturally, you continue with everything you've been doing, and you might very well stop there. You've heard me say in other videos, I'm not sure there's going to be room for more videos. If I can find, you don't need another video. The point is, you could stop at bequests, never go beyond that. Just have the bequests and the recognition society for the decade, for indefinitely, and have a very respectable planned giving program. So you don't need to continue going beyond those two things. All right, but if you should decide to, then I suggest you open it up with a gift acceptance and crediting policy. Just tailor it to the gifts that you're accepting at this point, which is just gifts by will. But how are you going to credit those? You want to make that explicit. I mean, there's a lot to be said about crediting. In fact, I'm realizing just about everything I'm recommending could be a topic of its own video. So I can't go into detail here, but in years 2 through 3, I suggest that's where you do a gift acceptance and crediting policy. And then if you do decide to continue the program, continue with the different types of gifts that you might be offering, then you tailor that policy as you grow. Okay, so it doesn't have to be this robust, gift acceptance crediting policy in year 2. You scale it as the program scales. And you might add in years 2 and 3, the charitable IRA rollover, which is actually properly the qualified charitable distribution, but everybody knows it as the charitable IRA rollover. That's the one that's only good for people who are 70 and a half or older. And actually, that's another good subject for a different video, talking about, because we did lose an incentive between 70 and a half and 72 through the Secure Act. But the charitable IRA rollover remains in effect for people who are 70 and a half and over. So you might add that in years 2 and 3. Okay, that's it. So far you're doing bequests, IRA rollovers, you have a recognition society, and you've got an appropriately sized gift acceptance and crediting policy by the end of year 3. All right. Years 4 and 5. Again, if you want to continue, you could open up and start promoting beneficiary designations. Those financial assets that you could be a beneficiary of. Pensions, other IRAs that may or may not have yielded gifts while the person is living as a rollover. You could be a beneficiary of those. Lots of checking, savings accounts have payable on death clauses. Stock brokerage accounts, life insurance, okay? Any of these, those could be the beneficiary designations that you add in years 4 and 5. You could market all those. Life insurance, I mentioned as a beneficiary. You could also start talking about ownership of life insurance, where the donor gives you ownership of the policy. Again, another good topic for a video. You might look at charitable gift annuities at this stage too. They may or may not be appropriate for you, but you do your research. Again, I'm suggesting like years 4 and 5. Do your research around charitable gift annuities. Depending what state you're in, what state or states your donors are in, it may or may not be appropriate based on the different state regulations, which vary wildly across the states, from no regulation at all up through New York and then even California, which are the 2 most heavily regulated states for charitable gift annuities. So that's years 4 and 5. And you might also start hosting events for your recognition society. Maybe you're already doing that, but if not, I'd say by years 4 and 5, you should have enough donors, assuming that they're concentrated. If your donors are throughout the country, then maybe events don't make sense. But if you do have a concentration in a state where you're located or where you're doing business somewhere else, you have concentrations of planned giving donors, you should be having recognition society events by years 4 and 5. Years 6 and 7, add in charitable remainder trusts. Now, there's a lot of complexity around those. So really I would say this with a question mark. They may never be appropriate for your planned giving program. Depends on the wealth of your donor mix, the likely potential donors. Might be very small for you, and so it may not make sense. But if you feel you have the right donor mix and the expertise, then you could be adding charitable remainder trusts in years 6 and 7. That's sort of optional. Again, question mark. You might start thinking in these years, are you ready for a full-time director of planned giving? Again, subject for another video. I really do not recommend that you make it a major gifts and planned giving person or any other type of giving mixed with planned giving. The reason, very simple. Planned giving will always get short shrifted. I don't care if it's half of their title, it'll get 1/10 of their time and their attention, because everything else is higher priority, quicker deadlines, and faster cash than planned gifts. So in years 6 and 7, if you're looking at having someone do planned giving, I strongly recommend that it be a full-time position devoted to planned giving. And then in years 8 through 10, so look at where you are so far. You're promoting bequests, and maybe you stop there. Again, could have a very respectable program if you stop there. You've got a recognition society, you're hosting events, you have a gift acceptance and crediting policy that's scaled to the size of your program. You're promoting IRA rollovers, beneficiary designations, life insurance as an owner, where you're the owner. Maybe you have a gift annuity program if you decided that it makes sense for you, and you might be promoting charitable remainder trusts. Look how far you've come in these 8 years, okay? Maybe you have a full-time director of planned giving by now. Years 8 through 10, really the main addition that I would say is you can start estimating how much revenue your planned giving program is going to give you each year, because you've got 8 years of history. Now, in the early years, it's going to be nothing, of course. This is not a cash program. I mean, we realize that, right? So there might be some revenue realized in the early years, but it's not likely, so don't be planning on it. But by years 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're seeing some revenue from your planned giving program. And in these out years, and like in these years 8 through 10, you can be estimating how much you think your planned giving program is going to do for you in cash each year. All right? There's the overview of starting into a plan of a planned giving program that starts in 2020. This year, that's this year, get going. The clock is ticking. And you see how far you can be by 2029. It'll be incredible. You just build the program incrementally. All right? Let's get started.